Hey guys, welcome back to another Realm of the Mad God video, and this is going to be another tier list video. I just wanted to, continue practicing on it in the event I ever do make more in the future. And I wanted to pick something a little bit easier, because I think I kind of bit off more than I could chew initially with making a tier list for dungeons, since there are so many of them. And so I figured maybe we can go for something that has a much smaller selection, and something that I think is a little bit better for judging based on just pure opinion. And so today, going to be my favorite classes ranked in order from most favorite to least favorite. We don't have Bard because all the tier list templates available on Tier List Maker don't have Bard because it just came out. And so I'll just find some way to put it in try to find some way to add it in post-production, like Photoshop it or something. So we'll cover that last, and yeah, let's just get started. I should be able to make this all in one part. I don't think I need to split this up. So I guess we'll get started by going through all of the classes that I think I like the least. So conceptually speaking, for me in Realm, I thoroughly enjoy either high range classes or high defense classes because I naturally consider myself a more cautious player. I'm not too great of a rusher, which automatically makes classes like Mystic, Rogue, Trickster not really my forte. I know a lot of people do like Trickster and Mystic and consider them two of the most fun classes in the game depending on what your preference is. But for me, I just never really enjoyed that kind of style. I prefer the more conventional, just go through things. The only exception is full skip voids or full skip cults or anything involving full skipping, but that's mostly by virtue of your party just giving you a lot of heals, Puries, Mystic stasising everything, Trickster's using Brain of Golem to decoy everything, so that doesn't really count either. And so for D rank, I will put in Mystic, Rogue, and Trickster. Mind you, I do have max characters for each of the classes. I have 2 Mystics, I think, 2 Rogues, and 3 Tricksters, mostly because I would like to have them available in the event I ever do pursue them in the future. I just never really found a need to rush, because usually someone else is rushing. And if I'm just going through a Godlands dungeon, even if it's something like Demon Abyss, or Undead Lair, or even to an extent Toxic Sewer's Puppet Lab, did I say Puppet Lab? I mean Puppet Theater and Mad Lab. Some of those dungeons might not be as easy to rush through, but if you have a decent equipment and if you have a good pet, you can rush through them with no real difficulty. And there aren't any other dungeons where I feel like you would need to rush because chances are someone else is doing it. And so I put them down in D tier just because I don't play them well enough. I just think that they're not really the kind of characters that I would want to play. Because Mystic, while yes, it has, I've heard, the potential to be the highest DPS class in the game, and the orbs are interesting, I just don't like the fact that when you're just simply trying to curse a target and not stasis them, you have to move your mouse away and then try to get like a general area, because I know the curse range is pretty long, but overall I just prefer to just deal damage instead of having some random gimmick to increase my damage. Although, that being said, I do really enjoy the Orb of Aether, which I think is one of my favorite UTs in the game, because it's just a very situational orb that could come in quite handy, so whenever I do play a Mystic, chances are I will use that instead of an actual like tier 6 orb or conflict. And I don't even have a conflict. I hope to get one soon though. Rogue, he's kind of I would say actually no, I'm gonna put Rogue and I'll put Trickster up here because I actually do play Trickster a little bit and I really like the prisms, but Rogue, I just don't think he's as necessary of a class as he used to be. I remember back then Rogues, like if you really knew how to play the game and you're really good at rushing, Rogue is the best class in the game, like period. But with how much more prevalent the steamroll meta is, where having just like 65 characters just rush through an entire dungeon, a Rogue's purpose is only now limited to the likes of maybe rushing to check out a map in a fungal cavern, or just to get all the 5 pots, but most of the time people prefer to use Trickster anyway, and if I were to choose between one or the other, I would definitely say Trickster, because Rogue, it's nice to stealth through everything, but with Trickster, if you can position better, and if you know exactly how to use your different prisms, I just think Trickster has a lot more usability, and I'm pretty sure Tricksters have more attack than a Rogue, and practically speaking I would say I like a Trickster more than a Rogue. Oh shoot, there's a presentation mode, I didn't even know that. Okay, that's cool. Let me see if I can get that. Yeah, that's actually crazy that there's a presentation mode in here. Alright, well at least now I know. Okay, anyways, so I would say in D tier, these are where I would put all of the classes that I think are not really the ones that, like, they're like the last ones I would play. That's not to say that they're bad classes, I just don't think they're my cup of tea. Moving on to C tier, let's see what we're gonna put here. Probably Ninja, Assassin. Yeah, I'll put these two here. So Ninja and Assassin, I just think Ninja in particular, while he's meant to be a much speedier version of a warrior who has comparable DPS, maybe not necessarily comparable, but you know, ninjas, they can do quite a bit of damage, especially if you have the right tech. While I do like the fact that ninjas can be a very speedy class, I really don't find myself playing ninja for any purpose other than just trying to clear realms, because ninjas have the fastest overall, I guess, movement. I know tricksters are technically faster, but I do like the fact that ninjas can pierce with their katanas. And the only reason why I don't have them down in D tier is because they are just a purely damage focused class. I think what would make ninjas more enjoyable to play is if their ability, the star, did more than just shoot a skill shot in front of you, right? Like, there are so many other MMOs that have these throwing star classes, right? And they have so many different little things you can do. Fragmented stars, large stars, boomerang stars, just any, even like electric stars. This is one character I remember playing from, I forget, I don't remember exactly what game it was. It was like a really like small flash game that was on Addicting Games. But essentially its main ability, or one of its main abilities, was that you could throw 2 stars and they were magnetized or charged with electricity, so they would create like, you know, an electric current between each other that would paralyze anything that came in. I don't know, I just think there would be a lot more cool interactions you could put in to a ninja's ability than just shooting a star straight, because that's kind of what it feels like right now. Every star just shoots forward, and the only difference that you can give a ninja is what kind of stat it gets. Like the Daybreak Chakram gives you Armored, Star of Enlightenment gives you Berserked, and most other stars give you Speedy. I know the Midnight Star can paralyze, excuse me. But overall, the very essence of throwing the star to deal the damage is just not very creative, and I think they need to find other ways to change that. I'm not sure to what extent the coding is for the game that can allow you to do that in terms of its feature limitations, but we've already seen classes like Wizard and I'm trying to think, where's another class that maybe I would dare say kind of like Sorcerer? No, okay, mostly just Wizard. You can have different kind of like abilities that have different purposes in terms of its animation and casting. And so therefore I feel like, why not add that for the Ninja? The same kind of goes for Assassin, where I feel like Assassin is just too weak and too like situational. Poisons can actually be quite practical for, especially when you're going for big rushes like Shatters. It's really good for rushing Shatters. I know they greatly buffed the Assassin by giving him a Poison Augmer, basically, but for the most part, everyone thinks Assassin is colloquially considered the most useless class in the game, and I kind of have to agree on that, but I do actually enjoy sometimes playing an Assassin for the sake of throwing poisons around, because it is technically an infinite range skill shot, and it does penetrate through things like Armored or any defense, so it does true damage every time that happens. And if you can throw in with a good pet and let's say the right equipment, such as, I don't know, maybe Hive Mind Circlet or Source Stone, Gemstone, and if you have a Harlequin armor and something like that, then you can throw quite a few poisons and it can do quite a bit of damage. But that I don't really think is enough to make me want to play over just another class like a Wizard or Warrior who can get in that soulbound damage and just be more useful overall. If there were other kinds of poisons, I think, that they would throw in for Assassin, like let's say a poison that, how do I say? You know how there are different kinds of abilities in the game? I know they have like the bottom Metazoan for Assassin, but why not create certain poisons that do other things? Remember, it's poison. Poison is a debilitating agent. We could have a poison that causes enemies to be dazed. Why not dazing poison? Or a poison that inflicts bleeding. That's like the perfect thing to happen for a poison. We have an armor break poison already, which is good because like a corrosive acid type poison. Just other different poisons that can give Assassins more of a utility focus than an offensive focus, because we have a very large overabundance of DPS classes. And I think, while yes, there are established support classes in the game like Priest and Paladin, I just think that there might be some other potential choices for what support you want to go for, like the Ninja in particular. Like I said, Ninja could be very good at establishing crowd control or area, I guess, control. I just think these two classes have a lot of potential to them, but it's just untapped potential, and I just think that rather than buffing their stats or giving them more damage, we should instead change the role altogether to be something more focused on utility, because Ninja, right? Ninja's all about being flexible and adaptive, and Assassin's kind of the same thing. They're both meant to be very stealthy and finding different angles. They're not really exactly fight you head-on type like Warrior or a Knight, and so I think their playstyle should fit that. B tier. Let's see. Sorcerer? Samurai? Oh, not Sorcerer, that's a Priest. What am I talking about? And I'll put Knight, so let's see. Okay, so this might be a controversial choice. I know some people would put one of these three, or maybe all three of these a little bit higher, or maybe the samurai a lot lower. I like the samurai. I actually like the samurai quite a bit. It's an unpopular opinion. It's the hill I'm gonna die on. I like the samurai a lot. I love the wakizashi being this mid-range decent damage tool that can sometimes, like one of them, the wakizashi of Crossing Fires, can be a very good DPS waki. We have the Eastern Winds, which is more focused on hitting a lot of targets and extending your expose duration. I think the samurai in particular is just a warrior that trades in a little bit of defense and a little bit of power for more range and I guess the ability to pierce through enemies. And I personally like the selection of katanas a lot more than the selection of swords. So I just would put samurai a lot higher. Obviously I would not choose a samurai over a warrior, right? Warrior is just superior to samurai in almost every regard. But at the same time, I think people are giving samurai a lot less credit given that it has really high attack, solid defense, almost the same as a paladin, if not, actually no, I think it's exactly the same as a paladin. Decent speed, decent attack power, and it's relatively bulky, and overall I think it's just a pretty solid class. It's in my opinion probably the most self-sufficient melee class in the game, because it just doesn't really need to do anything but its own thing. I just think it's a very well-rounded class, which is why I kind of put it in B tier, because B tier is like right in the middle. Doesn't really excel in anything, but it's no slouch at anything either. Priest is a class that I think has definitely fallen out of favor. I actually used to like playing Priest a lot, but now we're in the era of the Priestess heal is no longer as valuable as it used to be with the increase in how effective pets are, especially with how much more feed power we've been getting from events and stuff like that. So it's pretty easy to level up a pet to at least 70 heal, 70 magic heal. And other classes like Paladin, just being around and giving you much stronger heals, and just in general, priests are not as valuable as they used to be. I remember for certain Lost Halls, they wanted at least like 7 priests, and now we only need like 2 or 3 if they're really good. While I still think that it's a pretty decent class, I just find it to be a more boring version of the Necromancer, which I'll get to in a bit. And in fact, you guys might actually be surprised to see that Necromancer and Sorcerer are not even ranked on this list yet, despite some people agreeing that they're pretty crap compared to a Wizard or, you know, some other class. But yeah, Priest, I just think it's a little too boring. I would play Priest whenever I'm looking for just some mind-numbing gameplay and I don't really want to focus too much on the game. If I just want to autopilot through it, because I'll just carry a Prot and a Puri with me. And so I'll put it kind of in the middle because I don't consider it to be a bad class. I definitely would play it. I just think, you know, it's kind of boring. That's all I can say. And Knight. I never liked Knight. I don't know why. I know a lot of people like Knight. I know it's really broken even after it got nerfed and lost some defense. I just don't really find Knight to be that fun. I just think it's a more boring version of a warrior. It's a lot tankier, of course, and the shield utility is very nice. But yeah, it's slower than a warrior. It does less damage than a warrior. It is tankier than a warrior, yes, but in a game where everything can one-shot you anyway if you're not careful, I just don't think it's as, you know, important. Some people might go like, Jin, maybe you just haven't had the right build. I actually do. I have the Breastplate New Life, I have the Source Stone, I have an Omni, I don't have an Augmer, but I think the Augmer is kind of overrated. While yes, being able to deal true damage to a target is very helpful, I sometimes think it's not really that necessary given that most bosses that you could deal true damage to, you don't really need to. And obviously the main boss that this would be effective on, the Void, doesn't really get affected by Armor Broken anyway. And so yeah, I just think that Knight is one of those classes similar to Priest that is slowly just stopped being as valuable because not only is it a pretty boring class to play, some people might find it fun to be able to face tank everything, but for me, I find more joy out of playing a class that has to actually like dodge shots instead of just run through everything. It has the same kind of problem for me that a Priest does, where it's just a slightly more autopilot version of another class. And I will pick up a Knight if my friends ever need one, but I just don't really think it's that interesting to play. But because of its sheer stat line and utility, I just put it in B tier because it's definitely a class that I would play. I have, I think, 4 Knights, so if my friends ever do need one, I'll pick it up. As for 8 tier, okay, let's put Paladin, Sorcerer, Huntress, Necromancer, which by process of elimination puts the Wizard, Warrior, and Archer up top. So let's explain. Let me see if I can order this first. You know what? Yeah, okay, this is good. All right. So A tier might be a little bit of a controversial opinion. I know a lot of people don't find Sorcerer and Necromancer to be as good of a class to play anymore because like they're just weaker versions of Wizard, but hear me out, okay? Let's go over the Paladin first. Paladin, it's a great class, very helpful in utility, and while I did say Samurai is the most self-sufficient melee class, Paladin is probably the safest melee class to play in terms of like a new player, given that it has high regeneration, it does pretty decent damage even at low levels. The seal's really helpful. I love the various seals that they bring in. The Scholar Seal, which gives you a boost in MP and Wisdom, the Marble Seal, which makes everyone super tanky, and the Oreo. I don't have an Oreo yet, but the Oreo could be quite helpful in certain cases. Just the regular seal G Cookie, you can never go wrong with the G Cookie. I just think Paladin overall is the most party-friendly melee class in the game. I like it. I just think that maybe there could be a bit more variation on a Paladin seal because while it is meant to be the utility melee class out of the Warrior and Knight, I don't know, why not make a seal that does something else? Because it's sort of the opposite of an Assassin where instead of adding different ways to deal damage with a poison, why not add different utilities to it? Let's make a seal that could do damage, right? Like Paladins, yes, they are known for being more of like a utility focused healer type class, like a holy warrior type archetype in most games. At the same time, Paladins, they're pretty beast. So why not just add a section of the Paladin to where you can go for a more offensive Paladin? I think that'd be pretty cool. I understand we get damaging from the seals, but I don't want to be super reliant on the weapon, and because I don't do mundane, I just think that maybe there might be something a little bit more that you can do with the Paladin besides just being a glorified melee priest or something like that. And so I would definitely put it a lot lower. Sorcerer. I like Sorcerer a lot. I actually think the Scepter is very good. In fact, Scepter is probably better than a Spell Bomb because the Scepter of Devastation deals roughly, I think, half the damage of a stacked Spell Bomb, whether you're using a tablet or a recurring terror spell, but at the same time, it's a lot easier to hit. And certain other Scepters, like the Fulmination Scepter, is extremely beneficial. I like that a lot. I think it's just a really effective use for crowd control. The regular Scepter is pretty good for clearing large crowds of enemies. I don't have a Nidaria Rod, and while I did make a video on how I think the Nidaria Rod should be changed, I think as it is, it could be a pretty interesting and fun ability to use, like, on second glance. It has a similar problem where I think that the selection of wands is not as good as the selection of staves in terms of its range and damage. I like Wand of the Fallen quite a bit, but because Sorcerer is extremely squishy, getting that close ranged is not too viable anymore. And while yes, we do have the Bard now, I think, yes, I can't really ignore the fact that Sorcerer is technically an inferior version of Wizard. Now, the main suggestion I would offer to change Sorcerer is the Vitality changes I talked about in one of my videos, where Sorcerer boasts a whopping 75 Vitality. That can be great, or Ninja too in particular. Ninja and Sorcerer both have really high Vitality, so I'm thinking, if they rework Vitality, that can greatly boost Sorcerer and Ninja's popularity, and they kinda need it because they're the two least played classes in the game. I just like Sorcerer because it's a different spin on the Wizard. It doesn't do as much damage, but it has slightly better crowd control and clearing speed than Wizard, and so I'd like to put Sorcerer pretty high up there. Necromancer kind of has the same sentiment where it doesn't do as much damage as a Wizard obviously, but being able to AoE heal and sustain yourself is what makes Necromancer, in my opinion, the most beginner-friendly class in the game. And, even if it's weaker than a Wizard, it doesn't fall too far behind, right? It still has 75 attack, it has 60 dex as opposed to 75 dex, but that's not that bad. The various skulls that it provides, the Skull of Corrupted Souls, which gives you a curse, Memento Mori, which is just actual damage. We have the Esben Skull, which is a slow. We have the Skull of Endless Torment, which is a Puri if you use it correctly. We have the, there's one more skull. What's the other skull that's like, I forget, there's one more skull that like, I don't know, I just really like how Necromancer has taken very different approaches to its ability, and it's a lot more creative in my opinion than a Wizard. Huntress, actually no, what am I talking about? Let's change that, there we go. Okay, Archer. Now, I rate Archer to be worse than Huntress by pure virtue of the trap is a lot more versatile than the quiver. While we do have just the standard quiver of Elvish Mastery which paralyzes targets, which is very helpful, and the Void Quiver is not bad either. The Deathless Crossbow Quiver, or the Phantom Archer Quiver, the one that like shoots out the Shrieking Quiver of Shrieking Specters, I think it's called. That's a kind of interesting EP-esque ability, but overall I think the Archer is worse than a Huntress in terms of just the fact that the Quivers shoot a straight bolt out in front, with the Void Quiver shooting out into a wide cone. But But with the Huntress, you can throw your traps anywhere you want to. That's like the only difference I put between the Huntress and Archer, because they have the exact same base stats, and the only difference between them is the trap and the quiver. Quiver does more damage, I agree, and I think the Archer has cooler skins than the Huntress. I like the Archer's, also the Phantom Archer set, that kind of boosts his rating up in popularity. And also the Huntsman, I like the Huntsman skin quite a bit. But in terms of if I were to just be real with myself, I would probably pick a Huntress more than I would an Archer, just because the Davy trap is nice, the C trap is nice, the regular trap is good because a lot of bosses are immune to paralysis, so having the Giant Catcher trap to slow enemies instead, it works more practically. And I usually, if I were to go to like a vet run for Voids or something like that, obviously Archer does more DPS, and with the new Javelin, I like the Javelin quite a bit. But I would put Archer slightly below Huntress just because I think the trap is more fun to use. And that's about it, which is why I put Huntress in S tier. I kind of alternate between these two because at first I was Archer is better than Huntress, and then I was Huntress is better than Archer. But I would say right now, for the sake of this video, I would say Huntress is better than Archer. I play Huntress a lot more than I play Archer. I think Archer might be objectively stronger than Huntress, but I personally prefer to play Huntress more. Warrior comes in second. I know everyone puts Warrior first, especially because Warrior is like the most broken class in existence, but I place Wizard above Warrior by pure virtue of Wizard is ranged and Warrior isn't. I have 5 Wizards and 5 Warriors, they're all 8/8 and they all have really good equipment. I think for Wizard I have every spell in the game. Yeah, I have Jade Storm, I have Penetrating Blast Spell, I have Tablet, I have Recurring Terror, basically every good spell in the game. And while I think Warrior is the class I would choose to bring into a hard dungeon like a Nest or a Lost Halls, I can't go with, I mean, Wizard's my mascot class, right? Like Wizard is just, it's a great class, high damage, good clearing, above average clearing, it has good range, and especially with the Bard it does even more. Just Spell Bomb is really, really helpful because you can cast it anywhere on your screen, it's not a skill shot. Just overall, Wizard's really nice. I just don't think that it's as, okay, the Cult Staff kind of makes Wizard a little bit weaker because with Wizard you have to choose either between aiming your Cult Staff or your Spell Bomb, but in that case I would just use Staff of the Vital Unity, which has less damage than a Cult Staff of course, but I'm sure to get more damage than a Vital Unity you need to land 3 of the 4 shots at least for a Cult Staff, and so it's just, I don't think it's that big of a detriment for a Wizard. And I've started with the Wizard, everyone starts with the Wizard, and I end with the Wizard. I would choose the Wizard over any of these other classes, and so that's number 1. Okay, so Bard. Where would I put Bard? I guess I'll put Bard in between Knight and Priest, but because obviously I have to Photoshop this, alright. Okay, let's just put Bard at the bottom of B tier. B for Bard, I guess. Okay, so Bard is an Archer / Huntress that instead of having offensive focused abilities, it has a defense. No, okay. The Wavecrest Concertina can do a lot of damage, I know that. I just think Bard is kind of a... It's interesting, right? To be a more utility-focused class, but yeah, I had high expectations for the Bard, and it barely met it. It was kind of... It's okay, right? It's an okay class. It's not really a... I would definitely play any other class than a Bard. I just don't think it's a... I don't know. I mean... Maybe it's because it's new and we haven't pushed it to its full potential. And also just because there are not that many loots. That's also a problem with the Samurai, is that there are not enough Wakis to give it too much creativity versus a bunch of other classes that have 20 different abilities. And so we'll have to wait on that for a bit. But with the Bard, it's okay. It's okay. It's decent. It's not bad. It's not good. It's a very decent middle ground class if you want to be more of a supportive Archer. If you want to have the wave clear of an Archer, and I guess to have the supportive capabilities of one, then yeah, that's where you would pick Bard. So that's about it. I'm sorry if this is a really rambly video. I just, it's a tier list video, unscripted, and I tend to ramble on, and I kind of step on my words a lot whenever I'm talking and making a video. If I'm streaming or if I'm having a conversation with someone, strangely the words come to me a lot better than if I'm just making a video, so I'm really sorry if it comes off extremely cluttered and messy, but hope you enjoyed though. Let me know in the comment section below what you think. Remember, these are my favorite classes in order, not which ones I think are objectively... Oh, okay, objective value, how good these classes are, that does play part of it because I do consider myself a serious player in anything I do. So, Wizard, Warrior, they're pretty good classes. Archer, a lot of these classes are pretty... Like, the rankings are kind of accurate with maybe the exception of Trickster and Mystic being further up. and Samurai and Sorcerer Necromancer being further down. But I just find myself enjoying these classes a lot more. You see me whenever I live stream, I like to play these classes a lot more as well. And so that's kind of what I'm going to be sitting by. Let me know how you guys would tier these classes, because I'm actually curious to see if anyone has an unpopular opinion on what class they like. I know one of my friends, he really likes Assassin, and I definitely agree that Assassin could be a pretty fun class to play. Maybe I'll give him another chance and try him out again. Also, don't forget to leave a like if you enjoyed the video and subscribe for more content, but for now, thank you so much for watching and hope to see you again soon in the next video. Take care.